No, what are you doing? Don't, no, not this again, please. No, not another Disney movie. I'm begging you, anything but, oh. At least it's not for another month.
Something inside me has always been there. But now it's awake. And I need help.
I've seen this raw strength only once before. It didn't scare me enough then. It does now.
So I just got back from seeing The Last Jedi, which is a movie that you all know about already, so I don't really need to explain it, like, at all. But to say that this movie was highly anticipated is probably an understatement. This is the movie that apparently everybody and their dog was looking forward to, and I was included in that. I was looking forward to this movie because of how much I liked The Force Awakens. I think J.J. Abrams and Lawrence Kasdan had a huge, huge task ahead of them to create an entirely new world, an entirely new trilogy with new characters, new cast members, and kind of please fans and bring in new fans. So they had a big task ahead of them with The Force Awakens, and they did a great job, I think. There's a lot of great new characters, there's a lot of great new ideas, a lot of slick cinematography that really brings Star Wars into the modern era of film. So I think The Force Awakens really does do its job. Of course, there are issues with that movie. Carrie Fisher's performance is pretty lifeless. Harrison Ford is pretty terrible in it. All the stuff that ties back to the original series is pretty terrible. All the obnoxious one-liners that come out of nowhere are pretty terrible. And the story is extremely similar to that of A New Hope. So while I do say that there are plenty of issues with The Force Awakens, I still think it is a good movie, and it had me excited enough to go see The Last Jedi. I liked it enough to see this new movie, and I will say right off the bat that The Last Jedi has the same issues of The Force Awakens. It has the same issues, but they are sort of magnified here, for me at least. Basically, The Last Jedi follows the same formula that Empire Strikes Back does. And I mean, that's not anything unexpected. I mean, again, Force Awakens follows A New Hope very, very closely, so this was something that I was expecting going in, but I mean, it's still annoying. Just because I expected it doesn't make it not annoying.
Let the past die. Kill it. If you have to. That's the only way to become what you were meant to be.
But I think the biggest issue that The Last Jedi has is that it's a tale of two halves. The first half of this movie is incredibly dull, clunky, bland, uneven, and boring, while the last half is actually pretty great. It has a lot of great sequences, it's really well paced, but the first half kind of kills the vibe of this movie for me. There are three main plot points to follow in the first half of The Last Jedi. One follows Rey and Luke as Luke trains Rey. You know, just like in Empire, where he's skeptical at first, but he decides to train her, and then she leaves him, despite him saying, don't leave, it's a bad idea. So yeah, it's very similar to Empire, but that is the most genuinely interesting part of this movie, because it does incorporate a little something new here, where Rey and Kylo Ren have this weird connection together where they can like talk to each other and see each other for some reason. It's kind of dumb, but it's the best part of the movie, at least the best part of the first half. Their conflict and their feud with each other and how it overlaps with Luke and what Luke did in his past to get to where he is now. All that stuff is great, all that stuff is actually genuinely intriguing, but it's kind of crushed by the other two plot lines in the first half here. One other plot line follows Finn and some Asian lady as they wander around on a casino planet? Is this still Star Wars? Where's my script? Is this still Star Wars? But they kind of just wander around and talk about stuff that you don't care about. And they're characters that they don't do anything new with. They don't really flesh them out in any new way. The addition of Benicio del Toro in this plotline is much needed. He's really good in the role, and he does come into play later, but this whole plotline feels so unimportant and uninteresting, and in the end, it often feels like filler, where they're just kind of wandering around, not doing a whole lot. So that plot line, every time it cut to it, I was like, yeah, whatever. But the most egregious plot line of this movie is the one with Leia at the center and Poe at the center. Basically, they're just running from the Empire, or I mean, the New Order. That's it. It's so boring. All they do is like cut to this plot line, and it's like the same dialogue just being retread every single time that they cut to it, where they're like, we're running from them. We're just out of range, and then it cuts to the New Order. They're just out of range. They're running from us. We can't get them. And it'll cut to another plot line, and cut back, and we're running from them. We're just out of range. Oh, they're just out of range. We can't hit them. Cut to another plot line. It's so boring. It's so bland. This plot line is just completely unneeded and completely uninteresting. If you cut out like 30 minutes of it, it wouldn't have any other effect. Like, it would not change the movie. It's very, very dull.
That'll light the fire that'll burn the First Order down. Come on! This is not going to go the way you think. Fulfill your destiny.
But this plotline does have the most hilarious thing I think I've ever seen in Star Wars. There's a little segment where Carrie Fisher's floating in space, and then she starts like floating towards her ship, and it's quite possibly the goofiest, most unintentionally hilarious thing I've seen in a Star Wars movie ever. It's amazing. But aside from that, there are other things that get introduced into this plotline where like Poe is constantly questioning Laura Dern's authority and saying, you're a bad leader. And then right at the midway point when Laura Dern finally does something, it's revealed that she had a plan the whole time, and that if you had just trusted her, then it would have been fine. Everything would have been fine. You should have just trusted her. But it feels so stupid. The addition of this plot twist is so completely unnecessary and avoidable. If this character had just said, here's my plan, get out of my face, then like half the movie wouldn't even have happened. So a lot of this comes down to feeling very coincidental and uninspired. There's a lot to this story that just kind of hinges on stupid character choices that nobody would realistically do. But like I said, the movie does take a dramatic upswing in the second half. The first half I would classify as a bad movie, but the second half is pretty good. We've got actually important character stuff that works pretty well. So the second half is really good. If you just cut out a little bit of 30 minutes, maybe even an hour of the first half, this would have been a really solid, really well-written, smart Star Wars movie. But as it stands, it just kind of isn't. And I mean, there are other positives to this movie. Rian Johnson's directing is really stellar. He actually has a great handle on the fight choreography and how it should be shot. Everything looks great, and he really does bring this creativity to the visuals. The fight on the red dust planet or whatever is spectacular, and it looks amazing. Every shot on that planet was just visually stunning. And every other staple that has been consistently good with Star Wars is still good here. The visuals are revolutionary as usual. The sound design is incredible. The score by John Williams is stunning. Everything that is expected to be good is good here. It's just the fact that everything else is sort of boring, predictable, and done before. Everything that this movie does kind of just retreads what other Star Wars movies have already done, and it does it in a less interesting way. So I can't really say that The Last Jedi is that great. In the end, I'll probably give it a 6. It's not bad, but it's not particularly good either. It kind of just sits in the middle
It's time for the Jedi to end.
Just in that gray, kind of boring middle area. And that's not a place you want to be. I mean, The Force Awakens avoided this, but just barely. It's a good movie. And probably my rankings for the Star Wars as it sits now would be 5, 6, 7, 4, 8, 3, 2, 1. And I'm not counting Rogue One because it's stupid and doesn't have any say in these episodes at all. So anyway, I'll see you in the next video. Bye-bye.
Craig, but I probably always keep on playing the
She doesn't love me. No, she don't love me no more. She hates my company. Yes, she don't love me no more. I tried to get her up out of my head, left my bags at the door.